Hey guys, Staci and Hutch say too much.
Hello.
Back with
hello.
you. Hey, 2 years we've been on the air, Stace.
Can you believe it? You survived.
I know. And
Wow.
2 years is what my original contract was for. So that means they signed me again.
Oh, they did?
I think they did. I don't know.
Are you sure?
No, I don't know. I'm just not going to say anything and see how long I can stay.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't see this. So we'll go from there.
And it's funny. So many things are still the same. I'm sick again. 2 years later. I had no voice 2 years ago when we did this. It's just no.
Yeah. And I'm still scared of you. You know,
that's my favorite thing. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
And we still don't know if we can rely on Moon.
Right? Because he's supposed to be here how long ago?
A while ago. 6 minutes ago.
So we're just going to wait. If he shows up, great. If he doesn't, well,
we'll get him on another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're supposed to have Moon on the podcast. So we'll see if he shows up. But we still have a lot.
Finish my meat.
He texts me, he goes, well, I got something I'm doing till 6:30. I'm like, you're retired. Like, you have nothing to do. Like, what do you have? It's Thursday night football. But I'm like,
is that what he's doing?
It doesn't start for another like 30 minutes. So I don't know. Hey, by the way, let's welcome the man of the hour, Mr. Moon.
Oh, Moob.
Hey.
Moob?
Hey, everybody. Congratulations. I wanted to sing a song for you real quick. Happy anniversary, baby. Got you on my mind.
Oh, Moob. Moon.
I fixed your name for you, Moon. It said Moob.
Well, we used to call him Boone sometimes.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Boone.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing really well. I have been very busy today, eating Taco Bell and waiting for Thursday night football.
Who's playing tonight?
That's a good question. I think it's Detroit. I'm not sure, but it's a big game. I know that.
Did you watch the Brady and Patriots game?
Oh my God, did I ever?
Yeah.
I am such a Tom Brady fan. And here's the thing. Yeah. After the game, Tom Brady spoke, and he's such an eloquent speaker. He's very humble. So many people hate Tom Brady, and I know we've already lost Staci in this conversation. But
I'm thinking about things I'd like to buy at Target later.
Now, let me tell you about the Tom Brady thing. I watched him on TV talking to Hannah Storm from the Twin Cities, and they talked a little bit about his career and this and that. Well, later I went to bed. I had a dream that I was in a high-rise apartment building with Tom Brady and Giselle and their 2 kids. And we were just hanging out, having fun. And then eventually I said, I cannot wait to tell everybody that I spent the night with Giselle. And I said it as a, we spent the night hanging out, not that I was sleeping with her.
Right.
But Giselle got horribly upset with me, and and she threw me out of the place. And when I went to leave the place, of course, I'm normally in a wheelchair, but in my dream, I didn't have a wheelchair. So I was dragging myself on the ground looking for help, and nobody would help me. And that's the end of my Tom Brady story.
Clearly, Staci's making her list at Target.
What's on the list? What's on the list, Stace? What are you getting?
I'm going to get some press-on nails for little girls because I've got a friend staying with me tomorrow night, and she's bringing her daughter, so I got to figure out how to entertain her while we have cocktails. Some ground beef for taco stuff because you mentioned Taco Bell, and that sounds good. And
Moon,
as far as that.
We gotta talk about the whole anniversary thing, and got some questions for you, behind the scenes stuff, and then Staci made a little cool video that we want you to see. But first, the retirement decision. How did that come about? When did it come about? And how did you let Staci know? And how did you let the boss at the time know?
Well, it was as my health got worse, I was trying to figure out how long I was going to work, and my contract was going to be up on December 31st of 2019. And I thought that the company was going to renew me. And, we were doing really well in the ratings. And, Staci and I enjoyed each other, and there was no reason to make it stop. But the boss wanted to know what my plans were. So he calls me into the office and he says, what are you thinking? Your contract's almost up, and, we just wanted to know how long you wanted to keep going and stuff. And I said, I really want to work until my daughter graduates high school at Lakeville North. And so he said, well, when will that be? June? And I said, well, unless she's stupid, then she might have to go another year. And,
clearly she's not stupid.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyway, he said, well, something, you're never going to want to quit because you love this thing too much, and there's never going to be an easy time. What would you think about if we wrapped it up in October? And I wasn't ready for that. And I said, man, that's coming up, in a couple of months. I said, I don't know. Let me think about it. And I had a doctor that had told me that I should have retired 2 years earlier because of my health related issues. And so I said to him, something, I guess there isn't going to be an easy time to say goodbye. So I guess it's like a bad tooth. You got to yank it. We made plans. I went to Staci and I told her, I said, look, if I could work with you until I dropped, I would, but this thing's just getting too hard to fight. I have MS, for those that don't know me, because a lot of people have no clue who you're talking to. For
Not
those
really. We get texts all the time. We got one a month ago that says, where's Moon? We really did. Like, it's been 2 years, Staci, what was that moment like when he came to you? Were you in the studio, or was it on the phone, or?
I don't remember, because he and I talked about it well before you talked with management about it. So I really don't remember, but I knew it was coming eventually, just because, we had talked about your health and you had kind of clued me in on what that would be like for you. And, I'd seen your mobile self, change.
decline.
Yeah. And I knew how hard it was for you to, come in every day. And, but you just kept fighting through it because you just wanted to do it so bad. So it was hard. It was hard to see you like that, but you did it anyway. And I'm going to get verklempt. But yeah, it was hard. It was really hard.
Moon, did you know that?
I guess the one thing, if I had to do, the last day over again, when Staci and I were wrapping it up, and it was the last thing I was ever going to say on the air, Staci told me she loved me like a brother. And I didn't want to lose it any worse than I was already losing it.
I know.
And so I steered away from that and just went straight to, Bangs, our producer at the time, because I knew if I let Staci say any more than she already did, I was just going to not be able to continue and wrap it up. And I had this big grandiose plan to play, Baby Shark and all that. I don't know if you guys ever heard the end of it.
Yep.
You did.
I tried to have people leave with a laugh, and it was so hard. I said in an interview with somebody, I don't remember who, I said, taking away my microphone is like taking away one of Prince's guitars. It's my oxygen. The microphone keeps me alive. And when our owner of the company asked me, how are you doing? And I said, yeah, I'm doing good. She goes, no, I mean, really, how are you doing? And I said, you know what? Work is a great distraction. When I worked, I wasn't sick. I was Moon, right? I had 4 or 5 hours every day to not talk about blood draws and different kinds of medicines and all that other crap that goes with being sick. I worked on things like, what smell are you smelling right now? And, all those weirdo bits that we used to do. And, the thing about radio that made me so happy was that you could dream, and you could, there was no limits to what you could do. have fun and to try and make people intrigued enough to think you were interesting enough to listen. And we had loyal fans. I mean, God, I still hear from them.
Yeah.
I just put a post on Facebook about my sobriety and going to alcohol and drug rehab, and I got like 350 likes on that thing. And one of the things I've always tried to do is whenever somebody wrote us, I always tried to respond, even if it was only a sentence or two.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point at the end of, our run together that we couldn't keep up. I mean, I remember we had that hot mic feature, and
I still have that.
that you still have that. That's
Yeah.
really cool, by the way. If you guys haven't ever tried that, the hot mic feature is a great way to get on the air, and that's one of the things. Every once in a while, I even use it. But yeah, so it was really, really hard to say goodbye. But guess what? 2 years later, I've had a lot more time with my family. I've reconnected with friends that I didn't have time to really deal with. And my health has not been good, and there's been a further decline. So I'm trying to take all of my minutes and treat them as, not my last minutes, but I want to effectively use the time I have to love people like crazy. And I love you guys, to hand that microphone over to you, Hutch, it was really hard, but I had great faith in you. And I could tell it from day one when you told me about the guy that you grew up listening to. And I knew that instantly you were going to, mesh with Staci. Staci is so good to work with. Most of the time.
Yeah, there's somebody standing by with a prod.
Yeah. Sorry, that was. I have a cough.
Just off the side.
But
it's crazy though, because you talked about your last day, and I was listening. I think I was with you guys the day before your last day.
Mm-hmm.
Because the boss at the time, we had both agreed, when should I be there? When should I come on the air? And we all had said, Moon's last day is Moon's last day. And so I was, laying in bed, listening on the app and all that stuff. And, I just remember, you always leading with the Baby Sharks on and wanting to lead or end with a laugh, And so I was always wondering if there was a moment between you and Staci that you guys were just by yourself at the end of the show, or if there was a moment that you two had that was just a final goodbye or anything like that.
I think the final 3 months, we both knew the end was coming. And so I think that for that last 3 months, it was just a, love fest between the two of us.
It was really stressful. It was stressful for us too, because there were so many changes, and we were both really sick too. We both had what I'm dealing with right now. I think, I don't know. We were both wondering now in hindsight if it was COVID, if we had COVID.
Yeah. Well, I remember that I had a huge respiratory thing. Yeah. Right before we left, and I could not get it to go away.
And then you were actually in the hospital for a little bit, and it was awful.
I remember that because we all had I remember I had a conversation with the bosses at the time, and I think with Moon, and they were wondering if they were going to bring me in early. Yeah, I think there was a conversation because Staci wasn't in, Moon wasn't in, and it was just Bangs and Darren, I think, for 2 weeks. Yeah, and they're like, well, do we bring Hutch in early and get him? And there was a conversation, but I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad it happened the way that it did.
Because I kept losing my voice, and so did Moon, because Moon was out in the hospital. So it was like we didn't know what to do, and now I'm going to do it again.
So Moon, when it came to the next couple months and forward, and I know you listen to the show often, was it weird to hear Hutch and Staci and different imaging and all that stuff?
It was very different because it's like when you walk into a room and you turn the light switch on, right? You know where it is. But all of a sudden you go through the door to turn the light switch on, and it's on a different wall. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I flip the radio on, and it's Staci and Hutch. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, what else did they change? And whatever it was, it's probably going to be an upgrade.
Well, you know what's crazy though? We really didn't change much. I mean, we once in a while, I think we did what smell are you smelling
Yeah,
once.
we did.
I think we do the question, ask us what is it? The ask us anything or
Ask us anything. Yeah.
yeah,
We do
ask us
Big Hairy
anything.
Question. We still do Smart and
Yeah.
Stacy, of course.
We just did what's in your purse, and I just did what's in Hutch's pants. I mean, so it's really, there's a ton of stuff that started and originated with you guys that we just bring back because it's so damn good, and it lasts. So it is, and it's a different vibe, but there's the origins of The Godfather still lingering, around that show because it is a show that was built, by you two. And we talked to our boss, our big boss the other day, and he mentioned, KS95 was built on naps and donuts, and then Moon and Stacy, and so it's a legendary station, and by God, it's the longest one you've ever been at. So
Yeah.
And yours and mine is the longest relationship I've ever had with a man.
the same with him. The longest he's had with you was a woman.
The love of my life.
the one thing Stacy and I didn't have, which I probably should have considered, was a prenup.
No, don't bring it up now. We're doing fine.
Yeah.
The question I get the most, which is funny, is do you and Moon talk, and you and Moon like each other? I feel like people think when one comes in, it has to be some sort of weird
rivalry. Yeah.
But the way it happened with us, there was no replacement. It wasn't like someone got fired and another one took its place. And I think you and I we all know the radio business. The way that this happened was the smoothest I think we've ever seen any transition happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how can we do this to do the least amount of damage to the radio station, the show, and because if you try to replace somebody that's been on the air a long time, it's really usually not successful. If you're watching a television anchor and then all of a sudden there's somebody else there after all those years, it's really hard to make that work. What we tried to consider it as like a relay race when you pass the baton, right? A lot of times, if the runners don't know each other and they haven't practiced a little bit, the baton gets dropped and you lose the race. Yeah. That was not the case with us. We knew who we were handing it off to. We knew how we were going to do it and when. We practiced it. We brought you on the show to make people okay with you before we ever started. We made people know that it was not awkward between you and I. And, it just really, was one of those plans that worked after so many that we made did not.
Well, it's weird. You're right, though, because, we talked about this today on the air, is the Conan O'Brien situation. I mean, you look at what happened there, and that was just a massive failure. And all the other situations that had happened like that. And this had never happened on KS95 before the way that it did, because you were there 17 years. So there was really no replacement. And then you look at the morning show and how all of that happened, before Crisco, Des, and Ryan. And it was just one after another, after another, after another. And you guys held steady. So this was pretty important for it to happen smoothly.
Yeah. And I'm really glad the way it turned out for everybody. And, that was one of the things that I had high hopes for is, after I left, that we would continue, not necessarily so much the on-air stuff, because I knew people had to bond with you and kind of learn how to let me go. But what I wanted was personal relationships with you guys. And I still, like the other night when I went to that Hall of Fame thing, I mean, Crisco called me on the way to the event, and he told me, thank you for helping him get the job at KS95. Because Stacy and I went and met him at a steakhouse in Wayzata. We both liked him, but we didn't need a producer. We already had one in Beaker, and he was the guy that helped us win the Marconi Award. I mean, so we didn't really need somebody, but that was brought up by our boss. And then Crisco at the last second received an offer to stay at KDWB from Dave Ryan. And that was odd because Dave and I are friends. And, once Crisco decided, I talked Crisco into joining us, hey, you don't have to be on in the morning to have the biggest audience, because there's so much competition in the morning that in the afternoon, we're killing it. We have a bigger audience than any of the morning shows. All you have to do is read the numbers. And I proved that to Crisco, and he thought, well, maybe this wouldn't be so bad. And anyway, then Dave Ryan was furious at me. And I told him, I said, Dave, you can hate me for 30 days. Then you and I are going to have a cigar and the love's going to start to flow again. And I just had him on my podcast, a couple of days ago. But, and that was the thing. Ryan called me. Ryan said, thank you. I got messages from Des and, from everybody. And it wasn't like I left KS95. Physically, I was no longer there, but emotionally, I felt supported. And I felt like, people were still there for me. And that if I ever needed anything, I could make one phone call and it would happen. And that's where I worked. And that's why whenever I'm asked about my employer, I have this love fest for the Hubbards. I mean, when you run a company, especially in the radio business with that many dysfunctional people. Right. Okay. It generally, there could be hard feelings on occasion when things happen. And, not every single day that I worked there was completely flawless, but I couldn't have asked for a more hands-off approach to the way Staci and I were allowed to work. We never got called in and they didn't tape us. I mean, I got in trouble way more than she did. As a matter of fact, I always tried to take the heat for anybody that was working on our show, just because I knew they would.
Away with so much.
So I haven't really left KS95. I'm just not physically there anymore. But things like this keep me alive. And, being on the podcast, my own podcast, that kind of helps me to still have a voice. And I haven't lost my voice completely. I don't have the big monster microphone that you guys have, but, it's still a lot of fun. And I just interviewed a dude that was 92 years old. And I asked him, the 92-year-old guy that was at the Hall of Fame, of those years, what's the one thing that you truly recall? And it sticks right out. And he said, the day I interviewed Harry Truman. Right? This guy was on the air in the 40s, and he's still on the air now.
Wow.
It's crazy what people have been through. And, you mentioned the Hall of Fame, and it was so cool being there. Myself, Staci, Crisco, Bangs, and Grant. And it was such a great time to see you and your family. We got some clips that Staci put together. You want to see what we have for you?
I would love to.
They told me I get 3 minutes, so I'll get you out of here by midnight, promise. Okay? In my 45 years on the air, I've done rock star interviews, presidential interviews, actors. I've done 12,000 on-air shifts, over 100,000 live breaks, hundreds of angry sponsors, 41 hours of dead air, and 4 minutes of meaningful content. Okay? But I worked at several small market stations, got fired several times. My next and my biggest job came when I went to work for Hubbard Broadcasting at KS95 in the Twin Cities. I was at a rent-a-car counter in Los Angeles at the airport. And I saw a guy, and I thought, isn't that my old drinking buddy from my station in Nebraska? He said, you've gained some weight. And I said, you've lost all your hair. Anyway, he ended up offering me a job here to work with somebody that I'd never met. She's here tonight. Staci, can you stand up? Wherever you are. Oh my God. This woman. We had incredible chemistry together. It took us 2 days to take off. And we did stupid things on the air that were simple, but they made the listeners feel smarter than they really were, right? We did Smarter Than Staci, which was our biggest thing on the whole station. We set every ratings record. Do you know this? For afternoon radio in this station's history, and I hope it'll never be beaten. We won a Marconi Award for large market show of the year. I had a goal when I got here, and that was to have 95 number one rating periods, and we did it. And that's amazing, right? And you can still listen to some darn good radio in the afternoons on KS95. And Staci is with her brand new partner and my replacement and my new friend, Hitch. Oh, Hutch. Hutch, damn it. I was close. And I want to thank all the people that helped my career possible. Number one, the listeners that put up with all my stuff for 45 years. Number two, the dream team at Hubbard Radio. The family business that made me feel like I was actually part of their family. And wow, I just couldn't have asked for a better group to work for. Thank you all for blessing me with this career and this honor tonight. Thanks.
That was awesome.
Look at that, Moon. There you go, bud. It was such a cool night, and of course you killed it with your speech. But
It was so funny.
yeah, I just want to say you could have been more gracious than you were for allowing me to do what I do, and your speech couldn't have been more correct about that lady right there too. She as much as she has gone through in the past 2 years, and you know what it is. It's that she has made the station. This is what it shows you, right? The ratings have continued to do what you did. So I guess you and I could have been horrible, and they still
anybody.
yeah, we could have been anybody, and they still would have been number one. So but yeah, you're right. It's a great station, and it's a great place to work at, and so it really is an honor to try to fill your shoes, and it's a lot of pressure. So, and that pressure never, ever, ever stops from day to day. So
it doesn't. But
Well,
we wouldn't have it any other way, right?
no, not at all. No, not
I
at all.
guess my only word of advice is just have fun, because listeners feel it. And if you're having a good time, if you've ever walked into a marital argument, right, you can feel the ick in the air.
Yeah.
And if you walk into a party where people are laughing and having fun, you can feel that too. And that's really what our rule was, to just make people feel like they're having a good time. And if they are, we win. And you guys are doing it too. I listen now. I feel it. I hear, when I hear laughter, I can feel that it's real. And I hear the listeners getting in on all your stuff. And it's, this was meant to be, you guys. And as much as I miss it, I don't have to miss it completely. I still get to listen from home. And, every once in a while, if you get a caller that sounds like they're trying to do an impression, that's probably me.
You can call anytime. In fact, we call you when we need help. So Moon, thank you for joining us. I know you got to get to your football game. And we definitely, listen, we've got tons of stories. We have to have Moon on again about his early radio days. Because the stories, we have to do a prank Moon thing, because Staci's got a ton on him. It's literally, these stories could go on forever, but we got to go. But Moon, thank you. And of course, we'll definitely have some more with you, bud. All right.
Okay, you guys, love you.
Love you. Thanks, Moon.
Okay,
bye.
Bye.